Welcome to What Am I Signing? This is where we go over different forms that you'll run into throughout a real estate transaction. Today, we're talking about the buyer representation and broker compensation agreement, AKA the buyer's agreement that they have with the agent that they're working with. So we'll dive right in. Okay, so the first page we have is the disclosure regarding real estate agency relationship. This document basically just outlines what a seller's agent is, what a buyer's agent is, an agent who could be representing both a buyer and a seller because you can do dual representation, which we'll talk a little bit more about, and what the responsibilities are of the sellers and the buyers. So, outside of what we as agents do, you have your own responsibilities you have to take care of to help move the transaction along. The next page is the civil code, which just kind of has definitions for everything that we'll run into throughout this paperwork. So it has the definition of what an agent is, what a buyer is, for example, what a listing agreement is, what a seller's agent is, real property. So those are all outlined there in case you need a definition or a legal definition of what these words actually mean. Next, we get into the meat and potatoes. So this is the actual agreement, the buyer representation and broker compensation agreement. It'll have the date that it's prepared. So what you sign will obviously have what date your agent prepared it. And then I just have a placeholder name. This is my grandfather's name. So always keeping him in mind. The brokerage that you're working with. So I'm with Grounded Real Estate. And then we have kind of the terms of representation. This little section is what I like to call the grid. And you'll see a grid in different forms throughout your transaction. And it's just an easy way to kind of see everything in one place. So, first up, we have the representation period, which would begin on a start date and can't be more than a 3-month period. So, for example, if we started on January 1st, it would need to end on March 31st. And that contract can be extended over time if it takes you more than 3 months to find a house, which secret is it usually does. Type of representation is exclusive. So again, I am doing these forms for the way that I fill them out with my clients. And I work exclusively with my clients to make sure that the work that I'm doing for them, I know that I'm going to be paid for that at the end, whether that comes directly from the buyer or from the seller. Next is about the property that's going to be acquired. So we have property type, which the standard for the form is a single family residence. If you and I have had a conversation about if you're looking for a multifamily or land or commercial property or something, we would check the appropriate boxes on this form here that coincide with that. Location, I just have the 5 counties that I work in: Sacramento, Placer, Yolo, San Joaquin, and Stanislaus. So kind of this greater Sacramento area, and then the Central Valley where I have a lot of experience. Then we'll move on to section C. If there is, let's say, a specific list of things that you want, we can include that as part of the document that you're looking for. A 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom with a pool that has to be 1,800 square feet or something like that. Or we can kind of just leave it open ended. We'll see what we find, and then it just makes it a little easier. D, it would talk about if there were any agreements that you had maybe with a previous agent that they showed you a property on. And if you were to purchase that property, you would owe them something from an agreement that you had previously. We would make sure to put that in here if we needed to have a list of properties that I would not represent you on if you already had an agreement with somebody else. The next area talks about broker compensation. So, amount of compensation that is going to be paid to the brokerage, myself, for doing the deal with you. So the fee that I charge is 3%. Again, it's in here that all fees are negotiable. Just like you walk into Target or Walmart, prices are different for some of the same products. You can go work with different agents who offer different prices. And for the level of service that I provide and the amount of time that I spend with my clients and all the fun things that we get to do and make sure that we get you the best deal for the home that you want, this is the fee that I do charge. The next section talks about payments received by broker from sellers. So the way that this works is you're agreeing that you're going to pay me 3% for the deal that it's done, but that doesn't mean the money directly needs to come from you. We can also ask for that to be paid by the seller, which is really important, especially here in California. It's already hard enough to save for a down payment and closing costs. And then to ask you to put another 3% on top of that does seem crazy, but it's something that we can request be paid for by the seller, which basically can kind of build it into the loan price or sales price of the home. So it's not money that's coming directly out of your pocket at the time of the transaction. With that being said, if the seller covers my commission or any portion of my commission, then that reduces your liability of what you owe me. Let's say they pay me 2.5%, then you would only owe me 0.5%. And I can't take 2.5% from them, plus say you owe me 3%, and then I make 5.5%. It doesn't work like that. Can't double dip. This is the max amount that I get paid. The next section is continued right to payment for broker involved properties. So we talked about that this is an exclusive agreement. I don't want you to be scared. You can cancel this agreement at any time. So the easy way to do that is to just send an email that says, "Hey, Marvin, I don't want to work with you anymore." And then it would go into that we aren't working together 30 days after that. So there's a 30-day window for exclusive agreements. And then this continuation period just says that if this agreement expires or we cancel it, if there are any homes that I showed you are brought to your attention and then you decide to buy them within that 6 window after our agreement has ended, then I would still be owed compensation on that sale. Here is the section that talks about cancellations. If this is an exclusive agreement, again, like I said, you would just need to send me an email that says you no longer want to work with me, and then it's effective 30 days after that. Time to deliver buyer personal financial information. I'm not a big stickler on this one. Basically, it's just saying we want to make sure that we can get the documentation to get to the lender to show that you can qualify for the purchase of the home. But we'll work on that in our timeline and whatever we discuss of how that works. If there are any other financial considerations, we'll talk about those individually and make sure that they're represented on the document that you have. So that's basically the grid. Again, these are all the highlights that are in the document. And then each of these sections coincides with the legal language on the bottom. So there's a couple of things that I just wanted to point out and highlight. Number one being that, again, real estate commissions are not fixed by law, they are negotiable. So the fee that I charge is the service fee that I charge for the work that I provide my clients. Again, this talks about what is exclusive representation. So if you're working with me, that means you're solely working with me and I'm working with you. So we have a mutual understanding on how that works. Continuation of the right. So just a little description on that continuation period and exactly what it means from the time that the agreement ends or gets canceled. There's that 60-day window. Timing of compensation. So this means that I will get paid at the end of the deal. So let's say we get into this agreement, we go and look at a few homes, and then you decide it's not the right time or we don't find anything that you like. You're not going to owe me anything for the time spent, only once we have a successful transaction. So that is a great benefit to you as a buyer. Next is all payments are made through escrow. So you are not going to be paying me directly for the services that I provided. Again, that money might be coming from the seller as well. Any monies that have to do with the transaction are going to go into escrow first. And then once the deal is complete, escrow will send that money out where it needs to go. So never going to be a transaction directly between you and me or me and the seller. Again, this F highlights if any payments are made to myself outside of what you pay me, and that's all credited towards the total compensation that is agreed upon, the 3%. Again, cancellation for the buyer representation agreement is just given with written notice. So again, an email would suffice. If for any reason you decide that you no longer want to work with me, that is A-okay. And then these last two sections that I wanted to highlight were broker, broker authorizations and obligations. So just what we are authorized and allowed to do and what our obligations are to you as our client to make sure we're giving you all the best information. And then your obligations as well is the two-way street. We got to work together to get you the best home. So just saying that you're going to review properties in a good amount of time. If I send them to you, that you're going to provide the information that's needed to help you work through the transaction. You're going to take reasonable care and other professional assistance to read everything that we send you. I will very likely send you a video that explains kind of what you're signing, but it is important to read everything for yourself and make sure you understand. And again, ask any questions if you have any. I'm here to be a resource for you. So then you would have signature here, my signature there. And then it ends with just a few disclosures and advisories. So this one talks about buyer's investigation advisory, just saying it's important to always get an inspection on the home that you're purchasing so you can find out if there's any quirks or things wrong with it or anything like that. And we can deal with those through escrow before you close on the home. The next document is the broker compensation advisory, just saying that compensations are always negotiable. They're not fixed. And then if a buyer pays the commission, what that looks like. And if the seller pays a commission, what that looks like. And again, that we can't double dip, get some from them and get some from you that exceeds the agreed upon amount. This next one is possible representation of more than one buyer or seller. Basically just to say This is my full-time job. This is what I do day in and day out. So I am working with multiple buyers and multiple sellers in the market all at the same time. So one of those buyers might also be interested in the same home that you're wanting to purchase, and you both want to submit an offer. I am required to disclose to you that I'm submitting an offer on behalf of another client. I won't tell you what's in their offer and I won't tell them what's in your offer. I'm going to make sure to keep those things separate, but you will always know if I'm representing more than one person on the same home that you're to get. Same thing with sellers. And then dual agency means that I could be representing the seller for the home that you're interested in and you as well. And you could submit an offer for them, but I'm also representing them. And we would make sure to keep those lines drawn. Last but not least is the California Consumer Privacy. So this just says that all of your information is protected and we're not sharing it with anyone. You are good to go on that end. And this is the last document in the packet for the BRBC, or Buyer Representation and Broker Compensation Agreement. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. Again, this is What Am I Signing? The document that you'll get will look a little bit different because it'll have all your information. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And if there's any forms that you'd like to see me do, let me know, or comment, and we'll get them done for you.